Hello, my little friend. Have you tucked your hands beneath your warm blanket yet? Is the cozy heat beginning to wrap around you? Tonight, the Dreamweaver has arrived on a fluffy white cloud. A cloud so soft and pale, it looks just like our little kitten, Snowflake. In his hand, he carries a tiny golden brush. He dips it into shimmering stardust and paints the loveliest dreams upon your eyelashes. As he brushes the stardust, he whispers a gentle reminder. If you enjoy our journeys together, please light up the like button and subscribe to our world of stories. And if you ring the little bell, you'll never miss a single dream we weave for you. The Dreamweaver is very mysterious tonight. He has placed a finger to his lips and whispered that in Freya's house, it is a time for great secrets. Listen. Can you hear the wind growing quiet outside the window? The whole world has paused to hear a story about hidden elves and the secrets that grown-ups keep. Settle back comfortably. Let your eyes grow heavy, and let this story gently warm your heart. Part 1. Heart of the House. Winter had truly settled into their little town, tucking the roofs under thick, puffy caps of white snow. Inside Freya's house, a special pre-holiday magic had taken hold. Every morning began with the same cozy rhythm. As the first light of dawn touched the icy lace patterns on the window pane, Mama and Papa would kiss Freya goodbye and head to work. At that very moment, Grandma would appear on the doorstep, stepping out of a cloud of frosty steam, like a kind fairy. With Grandma came the scent of vanilla and cinnamon. As the sunbeams began to dance across the frost-covered glass, little Snowflake would wake up. The tiny, snow-white kitten would open her emerald eyes, give a long, sweet stretch, and run to greet Grandma with her fluffy tail held high, like a sail. Freya would still be drifting through the end of a sweet dream when a ribbon of fragrance reached her room from the kitchen. The little girl would squeeze her eyes shut and sniff the air. Even before she opened her eyes, a wide smile would spread across her face. It was the surest sign that Grandma was here. Drawn by this kitchen magic, Freya would climb out from under her big, soft, truly magical blanket, the one that guarded her dreams all through the night. Her bare feet went patter-patter across the warm floor, and Snowflake was always there to meet her. The little kitten would look up with her kind green eyes and greet her friend with a happy, tiny meow. After a delicious breakfast, They shared their favourite tradition. Freya would nestle into a deep armchair. Snowflake would curl into a warm ball on her lap, and Grandma would open a great book of fairy tales. Grandma's voice flowed like a quiet song, telling stories of woodland wonders. Freya listened and gazed at the pictures, until it felt as though the story might step right off the pages and into the room. "Well now, Freya," Grandma would say, closing the book, "is it time for our magic?" Freya loved these hours best of all. They moved into the kitchen, which transformed into a kingdom of enchantment. They put on their pretty aprons, and the real magic began. The baking of the pie. Every day, Grandma imagined a new treat. Today, wild berries. Tomorrow, tart cherries. And the day after, apples and cinnamon. With a fluttering heart, Freya set to work in her little apron. The girl would take a silver sieve and begin to sift the flour. She watched the white dust swirl in the air and imagined that real sugar snow was falling into the bowl. Ha ha ha! Their faithful kitchen friends helped them. The bright, ringing mixer and the swift blender. They hummed happily, turning everything into thick, airy clouds. But the most important tool was the magic spoon. Freya held it tight in her palm and slowly stirred the delicate dough. Grandma said that if you stir while thinking of kind things, the pie will have the power to heal. Freya tried her very best, while Snowflake watched the process closely, her little pink nose twitching in a funny, curious way. When the pie was finally in the oven, Freya sat on a small stool nearby. Through the glass oven door, she watched a miracle. The dough grew and puffed up its cheeks until it turned a beautiful golden brown. "Look, Snowflake, it's growing like a little cloud," Freya whispered. In those moments, the girl looked at Grandma with true wonder, as if she were a great sorceress who knew how to create happiness out of flour and warmth. Soon, the whole house was filled with the scent of fresh pastry. A rosy, golden pie appeared on the table, sending up soft plumes of steam. Freya smiled. Her day had begun with love, stories, and a tiny kitchen miracle. Part 2. The Crystal Ledger. When the winter sun reached its highest point, filling the world with blinding, diamond-bright light, it was noon. At this hour, when the rays were most gentle and warm, a familiar, merry knock sounded at the door. It was Oliver! Freya was already waiting at the window. While the world was bright and the frost only gave their cheeks a tiny nip, it was time for big deeds and joyful games. Snowflake wanted to go with them, but she stayed inside. She was still very small, and her soft fur might get wet in the deep drifts. So, the white kitten sat on the windowsill, pressing her pink nose to the glass, her emerald eyes following her friends. "We'll be back soon. Snowflake." Freya waved. Grandma, wrapping a cozy shawl around her shoulders, stepped outside with the children. She sat on the bench, tilting her face toward the sun, watching over them like a kind guardian. Freya and Oliver, armed with their little shovels and brooms, set to work. They tidied the paths around the house, the snow crunching under their boots with a sound like little crystal bells. But no matter how much they played, the children's eyes always drifted back to the mysterious house at the end of the street. Ever since their families had cleared the path together, that house had become the most secret place in the world. "Oliver," Freya whispered, leaning on her broom, "what if elves really live there? Santa's real elves." "Exactly." Oliver squinted conspiratorially. "There must be lots of them." They probably moved here just to watch how children prepare for Christmas. They gather all our kind deeds, like you helping Grandma bake, and how you care for Snowflake, and how we clear the snow together. And at night, Freya added, her eyes shining with wonder, they write it all down in a big golden book and send letters to the North Pole. Tea. And the children stood still for a moment, looking at the quiet windows. They imagined a tiny green cap fluttering behind the curtains, or the faint ring of a Christmas bell. That lonely window didn't look sad anymore. Now it looked like a doorway into a real fairy tale. They wondered if elves drank cocoa, and if they had kittens like Snowflake to help them wrap the presents. Grandma, watching the children, only gave a mysterious smile. She knew that the waiting for a miracle is the most beautiful time of all. As the sun began to dip behind the roofs, painting the snow a soft rose pink, the children returned to the warmth, happy and red-cheeked. Snowflake was waiting at the door, her tail waving with joy. Freya knew that evening was coming, and perhaps the secret of the mysterious house was one step closer. Sleep now, little listener. The sun has hidden behind the hills, and the first stars are blinking awake. Freya and Oliver are home, sipping warm tea, while the elves in their dreams continue their important work. Part 3. Between the Lines. After their frosty walk, the house welcomed the children with a tender embrace of heat. Grandma and the children set the table. Thick strawberry jam glowed in a bowl like melted rubies, and the morning pie sat proudly in the center. After tea, the children played with Snowflake. The kitten chased a ribbon, her white paws pouncing playfully. Her green eyes glowing with happiness. Soon, it was time for Oliver to go home. Freya and the kitten saw their friend to the door. Oliver waved and ran across the crunching snow, while Freya lingered on the porch for a moment, watching the blue twilight deepen. The evening flowed quietly, but questions swirled in Freya's head like dancing snowflakes. She desperately needed to know, do elves ever sleep? Maybe they only rest during the day when it's bright, and come out for their secret work at night? Or do they take turns so that not a single kind deed goes unnoticed? What were their beds like? Perhaps soft forest moss? Did they have warm blankets like hers? Or were they tucked in under capes made of snowflakes? Freya had a sea of questions, and not a single answer. Then her eyes fell on the very top shelf. There, among all the other books, stood a very large, heavy, and beautiful one. It was the Children's Encyclopedia, where grown-ups said you could find the answer to everything in the world. Freya looked at Grandma with her blue, curious eyes, and a little spark of mischief. Grandma, could you please reach that clever book for me? Surely, hidden between those pages was the truth about the magical people. Grandma lifted the heavy book down, and they snuggled on the sofa to look at the bright pictures. They turned page after page, but Freya's mind was still on that mysterious house. Where did the elves hide? They looked through the whole encyclopedia from beginning to end. It told them about distant stars, deep oceans, and how flowers grow. But not a single word about elves. Freya sighed. Could it be that even such a clever book didn't have the answer? Soon, the sound of the front door opening told them Mama and Papa were home. How wonderful it is to return to a house where you are loved so much. The room was suddenly full of happy voices and warm hugs. They all had dinner together, cleared the table, and settled in the living room for evening tea. Papa, Mama, Freya began, stroking Snowflake. Tell me about the elves. Are they visible or invisible? Do they drink tea like we do? Or maybe they like warm milk like Snowflake? The room grew very quiet for a heartbeat. Freya saw her parents share a quick look. A special, playful light sparked in their eyes. Just then, Grandma began to get ready to go home. Snowflake, as if she understood her special guest was leaving, ran to see her to the door. When the door closed, the kitten jumped onto the windowsill and watched Grandma's silhouette until it faded into the silvery moonlight. Freya went to her room, but one thought kept spinning in her mind. Because her parents had been silent, and because of their mysterious smiles, she knew. The grown-ups knew something. Maybe it was a great secret that adults must keep. And how did they talk to the elves to pass along the children's Christmas wishes? There must be a connection! Freya got ready for bed and climbed under her soft, magical blanket. Snowflake curled up at her feet, purring a quiet lullaby. Mama came in, sat on the edge of the bed, and gently stroked Freya's hair. Her quiet voice told a story of a little princess, but behind her eyes, Freya still saw little people in green caps. Where were they now? Were they looking out from the windows of that house right this moment? Watching the sleeping street? Freya drifted off to sleep, wrapped in her mother's love, and the last thing she saw in her dreams was a tiny golden footprint in the snow, leading right to her door. In Freya's house, the lights have gone out. Only the stars peek through the window. The Dream-Weaver's farewell. Sleep, my little friend. Wrap yourself in your magical blanket. Secrets wait for their time to bloom, and dreams are already arriving on soft paws. Good night.